Hi guys, a very good evening to one and all. My name is Srinivas and I'm here to talk about this new exam which is very huge called CUET. It's not a new exam, it's been there for the last few years, but this year they're pushing it, the government is pushing it in a big way, asking almost all the famous and big colleges to take their admissions through this particular exam. Okay, that is your CUET. So what I'm going to do is take you through what can be expected in this year's exam, take a look at what happened in the last year, and what are the topics that you need to prepare, explain the topics that come over there or what can be expected, and probably answer any queries that you have. So once again, a very good evening to all of you. I'm Srinivas from BYJU'S Exam Prep. Right, so I have already people asking few questions. Balakrishna, good afternoon, good evening. Abhishek, hi Abhishek, I hope the audio and all are clear from my end. So the first thing, tips and tricks. Yes, we will talk about tips and tricks also, but more importantly here, tips or tricks से पहले आपको समझना होगा कि what's going to happen in the exam, right? So today I'm going to first spend this particular session trying to explain to you what the exam is going to be all about. If you guys are not aware of this, we have a lot of these sessions planned going forward. Okay, so these will be running live in your app. So you guys, I'm sure you have this, the timetable given to you or the session plan given to you. So we have a lot of these sessions planned up. Most of them are going to be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Today, for some reason, it's been planned at 5 o'clock, but I'll be taking a lot of these sessions. In fact, today is an introduction. Think of today's session as an introductory session where I will introduce all the areas which are there in this exam. And the subsequent sessions, I will be taking each part, each individual area which can be expected, and I'll give you questions for practice. I'll be talking about some theory behind the questions, some knowledge. So basically, it's more about teaching there. Okay, so today it's all about understanding the exam. Okay, so Savita Singh is asking me what can come in the general abilities section of general test in CUET. That is exactly what I'm going to do for the next 30 minutes, Savita. I don't think I'll be taking more than 35-40 minutes of your time today. So let's go ahead and take a look at what can be happening in this year's coming exam. So this is my agenda. I'm going to talk about the CUET structure right now. I'm going to explain to you what can be expected again. The basic structure is in place, but a lot of uncertainties are there in it. I will talk about what is confirmed, what is uncertain. I will also talk about what could be the possibilities for the uncertain things. Then I will talk about the 5 sections which have been mentioned. It's very clearly mentioned in the notification of CUET that the general ability test, which is the section 3, okay, section 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, and then there is a section 3. Depending upon what course you are applying to, section 3 may be required, may not be required. I'm sure you would have done your research by now. For example, if you're looking at getting into a course like a BBA, then I think section 3 is compulsory. Similarly, section 3 sometimes is optional, sometimes is compulsory, depending upon the course you're applying to. So anyway, so depending upon that, this is what I'm going to talk about, the section 3, which is your general entrance exam. And I'm going to talk about the 5 sections that they mentioned which can be asked or which will be asked in this particular exam. Okay. Then I'm going to talk about what is there, what should be prepared in these 5 sections. I'll take up each section, explain the section to you. Of course, I have 1 or 2 examples with respect to the problems, but I will take in detail every section in the subsequent classes. So please don't miss them. Okay. And of course, I'll talk about how to prepare. That's quite easy. How to prepare, yaar, gyan dena bahut aasan hai. So I can always sit here and say how to prepare. But the most important part is your preparation strategy. So how to prepare, how will you implement that going forward? So that's where the difficulty part comes in. So that's also something that I'm going to talk about right now. Now, as at any point in time, I always like my students to point out any issue that they are facing or any query that they have. जो कुछ भी आपके मन में है, any question you have regarding this exam, please put it out in the chat. I'll be actively looking at the chat and I'll stop talking then and there and address your query. Okay, so that's how I like my sessions to be. I want it to be interactive. Don't keep your questions till the end of the session because at the end of the session there might not be enough time for me. Okay, so with that said, let's start off understanding what is going to be happening in this particular paper, what has been mentioned, what is known, what is unknown. So first, as of now, the notification very clearly says that there will be 75 questions and it is a 60-minute paper. So the time duration is going to be 60 minutes and 75 questions. Now, the marking scheme is also confirmed. Plus 5 marks if you get it right and minus 1 mark if you are making a mistake. 0 marks if you are leaving it unattempted. तो गलती करेंगे तो 1 mark negative, सही करेंगे तो 5 mark positive और छोड़ दिए, then there's no mark for that. So that's the scheme which is confirmed. What is unclear is, while they mentioned that there are 5 sections, okay, while they mentioned that there are going to be 5 sections, 5 sections means 5 areas. Let's not call it as sections, let's call it as 5 areas from which the questions can be coming to you. I'll talk about what are these 5 areas. They have not mentioned how many questions are there from each one of these areas. They have also not mentioned whether हर area का question, so in one particular area are all the questions coming to you together or all these 75 are completely jumbled up. We don't know that yet, so this is uncertain. Now the other big uncertainty, or rather in fact before the uncertainty, the fact is you will have a choice. This is very, very peculiar. Yet this is something which is new. Normally entrance exams में आपका choice नहीं होता है. You have to attempt, or you are required to attempt as many questions as you can. But here they are saying choose any 60 out of 75. What does it mean? There's no clarity on this as of now. And I am expecting that there are 2 ways in which they can deal with it. One way of dealing is they can build the software, the exam software in such a way that the moment you tick the 60th question, totally आपके 70 questions होंगे, 75 questions होंगे, right? You have question number 1, question number 2, question number 3 and so on, question number 75. So let us say you answered this, let's not say tick tick, मतलब आप समझेंगे कि सही आंसर किया, answered. गलत है, सही है, doesn't matter, you just answered. So let us say this is, okay, yes, where was I? Yes, so you answered, yes, you answered this, like this, you answered this, and you answered 60 questions out of this 75. One way that what they can do is, the moment you answer the 60th question, whichever question that is, 60th question, then they can say that you will not be allowed to attempt anymore because आपके 60 खत्म हो गए. So one way of doing that is, if there is an MCQ, so option 1, 2, 3, 4, there will be a button. You're supposed to click on this button. So if you attempted 60 questions, I can make the software in such a way that once 60 are attempted, the remaining 15 jahan bhi hai, so this is unattempted, in between unattempted, all these unattempted questions will become unclickable. That is one way, making sure that everybody maximum attempts only 60. You cannot attempt more than 60. That is one way of doing it, which means let's say that you want to leave this and attempt this now. तो क्या करेंगे, पहले यहाँ पे जाके आप unclick करेंगे, फिर यहाँ पे open हो जाएगा आपका, in fact the entire system, all the questions will open up. One question you can click and then everything else will get locked up. This is my expectation. This is one way of doing it. They have not mentioned what exactly they will be doing. Okay, so I'm just saying what could be the possibility. दूसरी possibility है कि if they think that this kind of a system is too complex to make, one easier way could be that, okay, आपको जो चाहिए attempt करो, 1, 2, 3, 4, you attempt 75 चाहिए तो पूरा 75 attempt करो. I will select the best 60 of your questions. Best 60 मतलब, let us say somebody attempted 69 questions and this person got 62 corrects and 7 wrongs. So what are the best 60 for this person? The best 60 are 60 corrects. Other 2 corrects I will not care because 60 चाहिए मुझे, 60 correct मिल गए. Let us say this person who attempted 69 got 10 wrongs and 59 corrects. So what will be the best 60 for this person? So the best 60 will be 59. Now, should I take the last question unattempted or mistake? my opinion is they will consider, if it is like this, they will take 59 corrects and 1 wrong. Because wrong में negative marking है and unattempted में 0 mark है. So technically the best should be 59 corrects and 1 0. But because you attempted 10 mistakes, they will probably put 1 mistake over there and subtract 1 mark. Again, this is not clear as of now. We'll have to wait for further clarification. NTA में अगर mock test मिल जाएगा तो पता चल जाएगा कि क्या करने वाले हैं. But as of now we have no idea. Okay, but these are all possibilities. Okay. So what is the takeaway for you? What should you practice for? Boss, abhi do not break your head on what they're going to do. Right now, focus only and only on getting the theory correct, getting the speed correct, getting your concepts correct. Don't worry कि उस दिन क्या होने वाला है. भाई, once you get your basics in place, whatever structure is there, you can always change it accordingly. See, it's like this. If you know how to bat, how to hit or how to defend, टेस्ट मैच है उसके हिसाब से खेलोगे आप. One day है, you will play accordingly. If you are a T20 player, you will play accordingly. A player who says, I cannot play this format is not a good player. You should be able to, you should be in a position to tune yourself to the requirement. A really good player will be able to do that. Some people are specialists only in T20 because if you are a pinch hitter, that 3 hours or 4 hours you're hitting, you can't sustain more than that. So in a T20 format, the player is good, but in a 50-day format or a 5-day format, you are not good. You don't want to be like that. You want to be a person who knows the technique. You want to be a person who can take any format. So for that, your concepts have to be clear. Your knowledge has to be perfect. Your speed has to be good. Then we will worry about what the format is once the thing is known, once they announce it. So as of now, all of you who are confused, how will it happen? Don't worry about the confusion. Okay, let the confusion be. It is same for everybody. Nobody has that idea. So all of you are in the same boat. So don't unnecessarily waste your time. Burden your brain talking about things which we don't know or which is not known right now. So what is the best thing right now? Focus on your studies, making sure that the concepts are in place. Okay. Now concepts of what? That's the next question. What will be the concept? What are these 5 areas? So these are the 5 sections. The 5 sections they have mentioned clearly are general knowledge and current affairs. This is one section or one area. Let's call it as one area. General mental ability, the second area. Numerical ability, third area. Quantitative reasoning, fourth area. Logical and analytical reasoning, the 5th area. These are the 5 areas which are mentioned in the notification. So abhi isme hoga kya? What's going to happen in each one of these areas? So that's what we're going to take a look today. So that's the whole purpose of today's session. Introduce the idea of this exam and what can be expected in this particular exam as per the section. So that's what I have in store for you. So let's start off with first, what could be the breakup? So totally there are 75 questions, out of which you have to attempt any 60 out of 75. So, but what could be the breakup of this 75? That's the first question. GK या current affairs में से कितने आएंगे? How many are going to come from your general mental ability? How many from your numerical ability? Nobody knows. So one expectation that I have is, look at this 75. 75 is a very nice number because it can be written as 5 into 15. It's not factorial, this is just an exclamation mark. So 5 into 15, why am I saying 5 into 15 is a good number? Because 5 sections, each section 15 questions could be a possibility, adding up to 75. So one way of looking at one thing that I am expecting, and that's how the mocks of BYJU will be given to you going forward, is we are expecting 15 questions per area. So if you're looking at GK and current affairs, पूरा मिले के 15 questions हो सकते हैं. General mental ability 15 questions, numerical 15, quantitative 15, logical ability and analytical reasoning could be another 15 questions. Now what is happening in these sections? ये topics क्या है? That's the next job for us. Again, this is just the expectation. There is no confirmation. We will revisit on the number of questions once we get some clarity. Okay, so the mocks will keep happening based on the expectation. Right. So this is what it is. Now, the first thing is your first area, which is GK and current affairs. So what is the difference? General knowledge और current affairs में फर्क क्या है? Now, what is the difference? Normally, general knowledge, the meaning is general studies, anything which is knowledge everywhere. This is basically, you can talk about current affairs, is also a part of your general knowledge. Current affairs is also a part of your general knowledge. But normally what happens, current affairs, when you're talking about current, the word current means, this current basically talks about most recent news. So what exactly is recent? Normally what we observe, we train students for various entrance exams. In fact, I train students for general test has 15 questions for each section. Okay, that has been already confirmed, Savita. Okay, good. If that is correct, then what we are expecting is also correct. I mean, is in line with what has actually happened. I didn't know when this came out. General test has 15 questions for each section, so that's what we are expecting anyway, which means now that is correct. Thanks for the confirmation, Savita. Yeah, so what exactly is this current timeline? So when we train students for various entrance exams, we noticed that current affairs jab bhi koi deta hai, whenever somebody asks current affairs in an entrance exam, admission test, typically they go for the last 12 to 13 months. They look at the last 1 year information. So last April se leke is April ending tak. So April to April. This, ideally, I would call it as current affairs. So if you are preparing for your GK and current affairs section, one thing you have to make sure is you are at least updated on what happened in the last 1 year. You are updated on what happened in the last 1 year. So at least that, if you are able to do, you will be able to answer quite a few current affair questions. For example, most recently, PV Sindhu won a particular tournament. What tournament was that? She is obviously a badminton player. So, kaun sa tournament jeeti hai? And there could be 4 options. Just about 1 week back ka news hai. Similarly, I can talk about a lot of things that have happened in the last 1 year and so on and so forth. So, that is what is called as current affairs. When you're talking about general knowledge, it could be anything and everything from the creation of the universe onwards. So, I mean, there's no limit to it. Kuch bhi aa sakta hai. So, normally what they do, a good paper setter puts a very nice balance between these two. They say current affairs, normally you can expect around 60 to 70% of the questions from current affairs, because they know that, look, when I ask you from GK, I can ask you from 2000 BC, I can ask you from 10,000 BC, I can ask you from the 1500s, or I can ask you from the independence struggle. I can talk about World War I, I can talk about World War II. There's so many things I can talk about. Now, it is unfair for you or for me to expect you to know everything. So what I will do is, I will test your current affairs, and that is where most of my questions will come. But हाँ, थोड़े बहुत चीजें आपको general knowledge में भी पता होना चाहिए. So there are certain areas which I will ask you, something related to a bit of history, Indian history probably, a bit of geography, certain things which are expected to be known to a student. So those come under your static GK. So typically it is current affairs and static. Static GK means things that have happened in the past, way back in the past, recent past, sab kuch, anything. And this does not change year on year. These things, once it has happened, it has happened. So such things are called as static GK. So static GK could be about 30 to 40% of the paper. Okay, so my expectation, again, this is my expectation, out of the 15 questions, 9 to 10 questions can be from current affairs. About 5 to 6 questions can be from static GK. This is my expectation. So one thing I would definitely say is, in fact, what we are also doing in our training program for a lot of students who are preparing for CUET is, we are giving GK sessions, especially the current affairs part, which cover for the last 13 months for sure. Okay. Apart from that, we also have basic economics sessions, basic history sessions, basic geography sessions, and so on and so forth, which will cover at least what we think is which is needed for this particular exam. Guys, nobody can teach you entire GK. There is no such thing called as full GK. ये complete GK कभी खत्म ही नहीं होगा, because I told you, right? It is like from the beginning of the universe कुछ भी है. So we will look at what could be the most important part and talked about those things to you. Okay, I have a couple of questions coming. Sir, what was domain subject? Nidhi Dubey, domain subjects are different. Depending upon the course you are applying to, you will have to take the domain subject. For example, if you're getting into BSc Maths, then you will have to take up a Maths-based subject. If you're talking about BCom or Commerce, then they have given an option. Accountancy will be a domain subject for you, or Mathematics will be a domain subject for you. So they have very clearly listed down about domain subjects, which course, what subject you're supposed to pick up. Okay? Muskan, how many marks are required? Muskan, see, the test is not yet over. This is the first time we are looking at this kind of an exam for any of the colleges that you're looking at. So unless the test is done, it's very difficult for me to say कि इतने marks चाहिए होंगे या उतने marks चाहिए होंगे. But yes, you are talking about some of the top colleges. So I don't expect it to be very easy. So if you're looking at 60 questions, which will be considered, 75 है, उसमें से आपको 60 questions answer करने हैं. So out of the 60 questions that you're going to answer, my bet is for the courses that you're talking about, anywhere above 50 plus questions. So 45 to 50. This is my range that I'm expecting. The top colleges. That is for BA, that is Bachelor of Arts. If you're talking about commerce and BBA or finance based courses, this will go definitely 50 to 55 corrects. So depending upon the course, you will be getting, or there will be requirement. Again, as I said, जब तक हमें नहीं पता होगा कि question paper का structure exactly easy होगा, difficult होगा, till the exam is done, we will be in no position to say how many questions are required or how many marks are required. Okay, these are not marks, these are questions. So multiply that into 5. Multiply करो नहीं multiply करो क्या ही फर्क पड़ेगा, because at the end of the day, it's the number of questions that matters. Okay, one more question that has come. Central University of Lucknow, what was the merit next year BBA? I didn't understand the question, Nidhi. I did not understand the question. Can you please repose the question? Anyway, so continuing in our journey. Next is your GMA, that is General Mental Ability. What kind of questions come under General Mental Ability? So this General Mental Ability, there are 3 types of questions that can come. Basically, it is reasoning based questions. In this reasoning, there are 2 types. One is visual reasoning. The second is logical reasoning. Visual reasoning में क्या होगा? Visual reasoning is you will get a set of images. So for example, if I draw an image like this, then I draw an image like this, then I draw an image like this, then I ask you what should be the 4th image. So this is a pattern, right? And I'll give you 4 options or 5 options, A, B, C, D. Options होंगे arrow mark. One arrow will be like this, one arrow will be like this, one arrow will be like this, and one arrow will be, I don't know, like this. So clearly you can say arrow mark up, arrow mark right, arrow mark down. So you are turning the arrow 90 degrees. So नीचे के बाद then another turn will take it here. So C option is the correct answer. Such thing is called as visual reasoning. So it's all about pictures, understanding the pictures, the pattern in the pictures, and getting the answer out of it. The next thing is the traditional logic, which you already know. So what happens in this logic? You have syllogisms, you have blood relations, you have coding, decoding, you have direction sense, you have linear arrangements, and so on. There's a list of topics that can come. So these put together will be called as a general mental ability. Now the problem with this section is ये ज़्यादातर आपको school में सिखाया नहीं जाता है. It's not taught in school usually. It's not a part of many of the curriculums out there. Okay, so that's one of the problems that you face with this general mental ability, and this is where you need to practice a little bit, because see, if it is basic maths, you would have been taught something in the school. Basic, if you're looking at basic calculations, something would have been taught to you in the school. This is one area which is barely touched in the school at all. So you should focus on this, because this is relatively new area for you guys. Okay, I have a couple of more questions. What is the maximum number of universities we can apply for in CUET? Surya, I don't think there's a number like that, but let me recheck and get back to you on that. I don't have that memorized right now. I don't think if there's a university limit, or I'm not sure about that right now. But you can write a maximum of 9 tests. Okay, over 2 days you can write a maximum of, or rather the 2 slots you can write a maximum of 9 tests. Okay, depending upon how many courses you are applying to. Okay guys, you are asking a lot of questions on, is this domain good enough for this course? We will have a separate session. We will have a separate session on course, college and what domain subjects you should pick. Because यार ऐसा बात ऐसी है कि I really don't remember which domain subject should be written for which course, because they have given this very neatly in the in a huge PDF, or that PDF is so long that I can't memorize it. Okay, so we will have a separate session on that. So please hold your questions. Please hold this particular area questions, where you are asking, is this domain good for this exam, or rather this college and this course? Just those type of questions, please don't ask, because frankly, I don't want to randomly say yes or no, because I don't have that information right now. I don't remember that. Kafi information hai wo. And I don't think people can by heart that. You have to just look at it and follow that. Okay. Pranjal, yes, logical reasoning, there is another name section related to logical section. I will tell you what is happening there. There are two different things. One is GMA and one is logical section. That is another type of logic. That logic can be applied in many ways, many different ways. I'll come to that also. Okay, hold on. That's a right observation, Pranjal. But I will talk about what can be expected in that section. Yes, Savita, the same question you are also asking. Yes, this is GMA. I'll also talk about what can be expected in the logical part of that section. I'll go there. I'm going one after the other. So this is the second section that is completed. Let's move on to the third section. Numerical ability. So what is this numerical ability? Now, again, there is no definition of this, but based on our expectation, what we are thinking of is, this is data interpretation, basically tables and charts. And they are going to ask you questions based on calculation. So for example, if I give you a pie chart, okay, and I say, my name is Srinivas, right? So Srinivas spends this 15% of his salary on, let's say, movies. He spends 10% of his salary on games. He spends 20% of his salary on food, and so on and so forth. And then I can ask you questions based on this. I can ask you a set of 3 questions or 4 questions based on this information given to you. So such kind of questions are called as data interpretation. Now the information can be given to you in form of a pie chart. It can come to you in form of a table, line chart, histogram or bar graph, any of these things that you are aware of. You would have learned about these things in your school. So based on this, the questions will be created, and that is what we are expecting to be in numerical ability. The kind of questions will be a bit of calculation required. So there'll be a bit of calculation requirement. For example, if I say the total salary of Srinivas is 50,000. Okay, so what is the total money he's spending on games and food together? So you can see games is 10%, food is 20%, so total is 30%. So 30% of 50,000, which is 15,000, I'm spending. So that's a simple calculation that I've done. I can also ask, ratio of money spent on movies versus ratio of money spent on something else. So you'll have to calculate these and get the answer. So such kind of questions I'm expecting to be a part of the numerical ability. Okay. Next is quantitative reasoning. The quantitative reasoning is well known. In fact, if you look at the last year's paper, in fact, I have the glimpse, snapshot of the last year's paper. One thing which is mentioned directly also, even without looking at last year's paper, one thing that they mentioned for sure is, in the maths, quant is basically maths. Is paper mein, they said that arithmetic will be asked, basic algebra, basic geometry and basic mensuration will be asked. So what is arithmetic? What are the topics that come under arithmetic? You can take a note of them. Basic percentages, profit and loss questions that you would have learned as a kid, simple interest, compound interest, ratios and proportionality or proportions, ratios, proportions, averages, mixtures and allegations, time, speed and distance, time and work. These are the topics that form your arithmetic. And you will notice that these are in fact, if I ask you what is the most important in maths, it is definitely arithmetic. And I'll not be surprised if out of 15, if 7 or 8, more than half, if they are coming from arithmetic, I'll not be surprised. Because that's what happened in the last year or last before year also. I'll show you the paper. The bulk of the questions in maths came from basic arithmetic. Okay, so you should take it seriously and start preparing along these lines. What could be asked in algebra? In algebra, what kind of questions have come? Basic linear equations. So equations in terms of cost of one pen plus 2 erasers is something, and cost of 3 erasers, 1 and 2 pens is something, and they'll ask you the cost of pen and eraser. Simple things like this. This kind of question is basically called as a linear algebra, or basically you're talking about linear equations. So you can talk about the questions, or the questions which talk about 2 variable or 3 variable solving. Usually I'm expecting 2 variable. Apart from this, there is another type of question that have come that is called as age problems. What are these age-based problems? The age-based problems typically talk about today the age of Ram is 2 times the age of his son. 5 years ago, the age of Ram was 3 times the age of his son. So going 10 years into the future, what will be the age of Ram and Sham? Something like that, or Ram and his son, whatever. So again, you're talking about creation of equations from questions given to you. It's like a linear equation only. So these kind of questions have come in algebra previously, so this can be expected again in algebra. Geometry is basic geometry. In fact, before year and last year, I didn't see too many geometry questions. But yes, if they ask geometry, it could be basic quadrilaterals, your circles, rectangles, circles, triangles, quadrilaterals. In quadrilaterals, your squares, rectangles based questions. And of course, mensuration is area based. You would have learned this. A rectangular plot. There is a road inside the plot of 1 meter thick. What is the area of this inside plot? Some basic things that you would have learned in school, or that there is a there is a peg over here, and there is a cow tied over here, and this is the wall. The cow is tied over here. This is the compound. What is the area that the cow can graze? So the cow can go from here till here. It can't cross the compound wall. So what is the area of this part that the cow can graze? So things related to areas and things like that, basically your mensuration. So such kind of questions can come. Okay. Right, so that's the part of your maths. So this is where your this is how your maths section is expected to be. Okay. The next part is reasoning. Now, logical and analytical reasoning, this is the different part which I mentioned is actually a bit different from the previous general mental ability. So what is expected here? I am expecting verbal reasoning here, not English. Please keep in mind, verbal reasoning is not English per se. It is reasoning using English. What does it mean? So the type of questions could be strong and weak arguments, course of action, cause and effect questions, statement assumption, statement conclusion. I'll give you 2 examples for you to understand how this is different from your normal reasoning. See, normal logic, you will have number series, blood relations, your letter series. You can talk about puzzles, all that coming to you in your normal general mental ability. But this is analytical reasoning, especially logical and analytical reasoning. This is English mixed with reasoning. For example, take a look at this question. Read the instructions. I'll give you 2 minutes. Read the instructions and try to type what is the correct answer. And this is the kind of question you will get. I have 2 questions like this I've put up deliberately because I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this type of questions. So try to take a look at it. 2 minutes for this question. Type your answers and see. Let's see how many of you get the correct answer. Did you understand the type of questions over here? This is called as a weak and strong argument, or strong and weak argument type of questions. Okay, Savita says C, Tarun B, Surya C again. Any other answers, anyone? Okay, so let's take a look at what is this type of question. The question typically in this kind of question, you'll be given two statements. Your job is to look at which statement is logically correct. There should be logic and it should be logically correct. Now, if you look at, I'll explain to you what exactly is the difference between logic and generally making a statement. Look at it. The first statement says, in fact, the statement, the question says, or the statement of this particular question says, should the government spend more money on education than on defense? That's the question. Should the government spend more money on education than on defense? Statement 1 says no. Defense should be of prime importance. Only when a country's borders are secure can civilians have a peaceful life. Now first analyze this. This no and defense should be of prime importance. This is an opinion. Why should defense be of prime importance? Only when the country's borders are secure can the civilians have a peaceful life. Look at it. Which country are we talking about? Does every country have bad neighbors? If you are surrounded by neighbors that you are always fighting with, I understand this. But why should this be true for anybody? Did they mention, is it India or Sri Lanka or is it Pakistan? No, they did not mention which country. They're generally talking about, should the government spend more money on education than on defense? What if I'm a country surrounded with friendly neighbors? Why would I be unnecessarily spending money on defense? I'll be wasting my money on defense, right? For example, look at Japan for that matter. For a very long time after the Second World War, Japan did not spend money on its military expenditure at all, because it was under the protection of the US government. In fact, the US took up the entire responsibility of making sure that Japan is not threatened by anybody. So Japan focused all its attention on other areas, especially in technology, and of course you know where they stand right now. So it's a different issue. Now they're spending money on military also, but at a point in time they did not spend any money on military at all. And in fact, if you are a country surrounded by friendly neighbors, you never had a problem with them, what is the need for you to strengthen your borders? That point comes only if you are having hostile nations as your neighbors. So the first one does not really logically explain what is the problem. Whereas if you look at the second statement, it is very logical in nature. It depends on the requirement of the country. That is in fact, this should tell you to think. The second statement should have told you, should have given you the hint, what could be the requirement of the country if you are like, let's say, Israel, where you're surrounded on all the sides by countries that you're always in war with. Now, I don't know who is right, who is wrong. I'm not talking about whether this country is right or that country is wrong, but the fact is that the country called Israel has always been in war with its neighbors, or not always, at least for the better part of its life. So they are always threatened. Now, if that is the case, yes, they have to spend a lot of money on the military defense. Yes, I understand that. So whether the country needs it, prioritizes or not, depends upon the need of the country. So that makes a lot more logical sense. So 2 is very strong as an argument, because it clearly talks about, look, it's not randomly saying yes or no. First analyze. Based on that analysis only you should take a decision. That's what the statement 2 says, which is logical, which is strong. Whereas the first one does not talk about it. Hence, the correct answer is option B. Right? Only statement 2 is strong, statement 1 is not strong. Okay, so I hope you got the idea about this kind of question. I'll give you one more example. Similar kind of a question, but this is called as statement and effect. Okay, so this question is called as cause and effect. So read it. I'll give you 2 minutes to answer this. Okay, 1.5 minutes done, 30 more seconds. Piali Singha, Savita, Surya. Okay, Surya has given an answer. Pranjal. Guys, I need some answers. I mean, don't randomly mark it. If you get genuinely, please put it. Alright, so let's take a look at what is happening here. Tarun says C, Surya Malik says A. So this is a kind of a question where you are supposed to look at, are the two statements linked? And if they are linked, is something the cause and something the effect? Now what is the cause and what is the effect? Cause is the reason for something to happen. Effect is the output of it happening. Screen clear nahi hai. Are you not able to see this clearly? Okay. Anyway, so I'll explain what is this cause and effect. So for example, if you ate something bad, right? You ate something or some stale food. What is the effect of that? The effect of that is you will have stomach upset. You will probably have diarrhea, loose motions, vomitings, anything. So all these are the effects. What caused the effect? The causing of the effect is eating bad food. So here clearly the statements are linked in my example. So you need to understand, obviously my example is quite easy, but when you're looking at this cause and effect, you need to understand, are the two statements really linked or they're not? Based on that, the answer has to be mentioned. So let's take a look at what is happening here. The statement 1 here says, the recent spate of attacks against women in Bengaluru is highly condemnable, and the women's rights groups have demanded action against those responsible. First of all, this is not a cause, this is an effect. What is the effect? The effect is, for some reason, there is attack on women. There is an attack on women, that is the effect. It is not the cause. It cannot be the cause in this statement at least. Okay, something would have happened because of which this happened. Okay, and the effect of that is, yeah, the women's rights groups have demanded an action against those responsible. Statement 1. Look at statement 2. Statement 2 says, the government of Karnataka has announced a compensation of 5 lakhs for the victims of violence in the state following clashes between two communities. First of all, are they linked? They are not linked. You're talking about women here. You're talking about communal clashes here or community clashes here. So there are two statements not linked at all. The moment they are not linked, you'll say that A is wrong because they cannot be a cause and effect. They're not linked at all. And now you'll say, which means they are both supposed to be independent. So A and B are both gone. They are not linked, so they are both independent. Now, are they both independent causes or are they both independent effects? That's the question. Now, we already saw first one is an effect. Now, automatically, if one is an effect, then either both are effects or both are causes, because that's how the options are. So you can try to see the second one. Again, what is the government doing? Government is reacting. It is announcing an ex gratia of 5 lakhs for people who have been the victims of the violence. So that is an effect of the violence. So it is an effect, it is not a cause. So both of them are not causes, both of them are effects. So that is your option D. Tarun, I hope you understood now. Savita, yes, D is the correct answer. That's good, Savita. But Tarun, I hope you understood now the difference between cause and an effect. Effect is what happens after. Cause is what is the root. What is the first thing that comes? Effect is what is happening because of that. Clear? So that's how this question is. So now how do you prepare? Now the problem with this is quite easy. The problem is quite straightforward. The topics here that we have seen in two of these sections are not taught to you regularly in your school. That is the biggest problem. And what I would say is either you take up competitive books which have these sections, or please join a coaching center, preferably BYJU'S, where we are conducting these live classes. We have dedicated classes for each one of these sections to help you in your preparation. Yes, totally 5 sections. In each section, 15 questions will be, 12 need to answer. Okay, Bala, that information has come out today. When did this information come out? Okay, it's given, okay, fine. Let me take a look at that once again. So that's what I was expecting, but okay. So Bala says it is 15 and you have to attempt 12. So if you have to attempt 12, you have to know all the 5 sections. You have to know all the 5 sections without fail, right? 2 weeks before. Okay, fine. Now, this is what happened in CUET 2020. As you can see the breakup. This is your math. And at that point, English was also included within this itself, but this time English is not a part here. So you have maths and DI and logic. So you can see analogies. Analogies are, questions like, if I say, let us say, yeah, singing and music. Then I'll give you one more word. Let's say, you sing to a music or you compose music for a song. So let's say another this thing as study and what. So singing, you sing to a tune, which is basically giving you a music. You study, either you can, the options could be a knowledge or it could be an exam, depending upon what the options are. So you study for knowledge also, you study for an exam also, all these are fine. So analogy is basically understanding how are these two related and therefore picking the right option such that the thing that is asked is also related to my option. So that's how this is. Then we have odd one out, word series, scheduling, coding, decoding, tabulation, blood relations, critical reasoning, missing numbers. Missing numbers is your number series where one number will be missed. You are supposed to understand what is that number which is missed. So all these and table-based DI, 5 questions. And look at this maths. The bulk of it is arithmetic. Look at how many questions have come from arithmetic. Totally there are 25 questions from maths that year. And you can take a look at how many of them are coming from your arithmetic. As I mentioned, I will not be surprised this year if more than half the questions are from arithmetic itself. So these are the topics which you should not leave. Okay, so this is what I have in mind, friends. So I basically wanted to introduce the exam per se, the structure per se for you. I have a lot of these sessions coming up. In fact, the next session is coming up on 12th. Then there is one on 13th and so on and so forth. All of these are going to be 1-hour sessions. Now going forward, the remaining sessions, I'm going to take up particular sections, give you questions, give you practice. Like I gave you 2 examples today, but next section onwards, the entire 1 hour is going to be for practice. So you have to sit with a pen and paper. You have to solve the questions along with me. And of course, I'll give you the solution. Like today, I'll give you 1 minute or 1.5 minutes for you to solve. And then of course, I'll explain the answer and the solution to you. So that's how I will be looking at the sections going forward. So I hope this particular session has been interactive and informative for you. I hope you understood what can be expected section wise, right? So yeah, so I think Balakrishna has posted that. Right, so I hope you guys will be attending the sessions coming in the future. Till then, all the best and see you in the next one.